Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today it is time to do the end of year book tag. And somehow it seems really early. I think partially because I did this book tag really late last year. But it's actually a tag that once you hear the questions, you'll realize is actually intended to be done closer to this time of year. So this tag was created by Ariel Bissett, and I went back and looked at her original book tag for this, and she did post it in the month of September, which makes sense to me. I think I did the book tag last year in like November, and I was like, oh, I think I'm doing this tag late. Anyway, let's get straight into the questions. Question number one are there any books that you started that you need to finish basically before the year is over? And there is one. And last year I said, well, need is really relative. Do you need to finish any books? Yes, I do. And I'm sure this has come up multiple times at this point, but I need to finish Drood by Dan Simmons. So this is a book that I did actually start earlier this year, a couple months ago now, I guess. And very unlike me, I didn't just DNF it and say I'll finish it eventually or never at all. I soft DNF'd it. I had started reading it and I put it down because I realized there were other books that I still wanted to read before I got to this one because they're mentioned in this book, and they're mentioned to the point that it was starting to feel like he was going to spoil the plots of them if I did not read them. So this is a book that I started that I feel like I need to finish, and more importantly, I want to finish before the year is over because I have gotten about 200 pages into this book and I have a pretty good memory of what happened in those 200 pages. So I at least want to leave myself the option that I could pick up where I left off and not put it off for so long that I have to reread the first 200 pages. Well, I'd probably reread the first 200 pages anyway, yeah, but that's okay. So this is the first book on that list. Question two, do you have an autumnal book to transposition you into the end of the year? And this was the question that made me go when I did this in November, an autumnal book. We're already practically in winter. Oddly enough, the question for this year is still no. No, I don't. So I don't tend to look at my books as seasonal, especially spring and fall. A lot of the books I read, I find usually mention every season and don't necessarily start in one. And if they do, they tend to either be books that are set completely in summer, like A Month in the Country, or they are books that are like very winter and winter is the entire book, like The Snow Child. So fall and spring, if they come up in my book, I don't notice, and there's definitely not any in particular that I'm looking for that have fall vibes. That said, this kind of, I guess, would have a bit of a fall vibe in terms of it's, you know, sort of a horror book and it's got that spooky vibe, but I'm not necessarily trying to get that in as a transition book. Question number three, are there any new releases that you're still waiting for? And if I had done this tag a week ago, I would have said yes. And in some ways, I'm still waiting for it, even though I'm not literally waiting for the book anymore. Does that still count? I don't know. Anyway, my new release for this month is A Lovely One by Ketanji Brown Jackson. I just got this book in the mail this past week. Up until then, I was waiting for this new release. And yeah, ooh, there's pictures. I love a good memoir, and I cannot wait to read this one. There's the picture that I saw. And yeah, it's a nice big book too, and a beautiful picture, and way to go with those sister locks. And no, my sister locks were not inspired by her sister locks. I've actually wanted them for way longer than hers became popular. But yay for bringing sister locks to the rest of the world. Question number four are name 3 books you would like to read by the end of the year. So I'm going to go back to Drood and I'll talk about the other 2 books that I want to read before I read this one. So Drood by Dan Simmons is definitely one, and the other 2, if you guys have been watching my channel, you'll know them, but if not, here they are again, would be Bleak House, which I did get on my September TBR, so I am in the middle of reading this. I am currently on page 144, so I've still got a ways to go. This edition's like 900 some odd pages. My intention is to finish this before September is over. And right now, other than The Mysteries of Paris, this is the only book that I am reading and working on. well, I do have my audiobook, but I'm not listening to this and will not listen to this on audiobook because I just find Charles Dickens' language too confusing to do that with. So yeah, I'm excited to be getting to this book, and I'm glad that I'm knocking it off because it is a book that I wanted to read by the end of the year so that I could read Drood before the end of the year. The third book in that stack would be Our Mutual Friends. This is another Charles Dickens book and is the third book in this little project here that I feel like I need to read and that I want to read before the end of the year because, again, I want to read this before the end of the year so I can read Drood before the end of the year. And this is also another 900-page Charles Dickens novel. Now, those are in mass market paperback, but I'm pretty sure even in the trade paperback, they're like 700 or 800 pages. What's a girl to do? Question number 5 is there a book that you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? I'm going to say no. I know what books I want to read before the end of the year. I know what's on my TBR for September. I have an idea of what I'm hoping I'll pick between now and December. And favorite of the year? I don't think so. Right now, I have 2 books that are definitely in contention for favorite of the year. In fact, I probably have a top 5. And while I'm really looking forward to these 3 books, I don't think any of them are going to end up being the favorite of the year. Drood, I've already read 200 pages of, and I think I'm really going to enjoy, but I'm not even sure it's going to be a 5-star read for me. I think it's probably going to be a 4-star. Read, which is fine with me. Bleak House, I'm also almost 200 pages into, and I would say the same thing. I think it's probably going to be a 4-star read for me. I think I'm going to like it, but I don't think it's going to knock. I don't even know that it would. Drood, I don't think will place in my top 5. Bleak House, I don't know. I feel like a lot needs to happen, and there's about 700 pages for something more to happen to get it there. But and then Our Mutual Friend, I'm also actually kind of doubtful it'll be my favorite of the year, only because I know that some people absolutely love this book and it's their favorite Charles Dickens, and other people just really like it and think it's another good one, but it's not necessarily their favorite. And question number 6 is, have you already started making plans for next year? Reading plans? And my answer is yes, I have. And I can think of 3 different plans that I have for sure that I'm all very excited about. There are 2 different books that I am planning to read over the course of all of next year. Very different books, very different topics, and very different ways that I plan on approaching them and reading them across the course of the year, and I'm very excited about that. But because I'm planning on reading them all year long, it took a little figuring out for me to decide how I was going to do that. One, I very much had to plan and have created a calendar for, and the second one, I just have a strategy that I am going to use. My second set of reading plans for next year have to do with my TBR game and some adjustments that I plan on making to my spinning wheel and how I am going to use that to pick my TBR, and also how that's going to impact the different videos that I make next year. I don't know that those will totally be just saved for next year. I think it's probably going to come up in my November and December reading plans, but I also can't decide for sure what I want to do on those, so we'll see. And the third set of reading plans has to do with something that will hopefully be coming to fruition at the end of this month. So I'm hopefully going to have a fun announcement for the end of this month, and that will definitely be impacting my reading plans for next year. Anyway, that is it for today. That's it for this book tag. If you are interested in doing this end of year tag, go ahead and make your own video. Be sure to tag me so that I know that you've made it and I can go and watch your video. That's the main reason I like when people tag me, is then I'm like, oh, let me go see. Leave a comment. Let me know your answers to these questions. I would love to know what your plans are for the remainder of this year, and if you've started planning for some reading stuff for next year, and I'll talk to you next time.